This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 399 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, Kentucky Performance Products, and Fairfield Inn & Suites. Today we've got returning guest Megan McIsaac from Wisconsin, going to talk about cold weather riding tips and also about her experiences importing horses from Denmark.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Loxahatchee, Florida.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hi.
Good afternoon, Reese. Good afternoon, Jen.
How are you? Jen, our
Hello.
fearless leader, is here too.
Yay!
How is everybody doing today?
You're just going to talk about how awesome Florida is again, because I'm not going to be able to take that.
Yeah, I know. I was actually going to see how everyone else was doing, Phil. Cranky Phil, everyone. It's happening. Cranky Phil.
I don't want to talk about it. It's snowing and raining today.
Ooh.
Oh, you
all
get
the
a
same
wintry
time.
mix.
Yeah,
the
that's the
favorite.
worst.
Which is the worst.
At least
Yeah,
when it's
the-
lovely, fluffy snow, it's pretty to look at.
Yes.
But yeah,
It's-
that mixed thing, that
and
sucks.
it's more drivable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't drive in the sleety, icy.
No.
So
No, and what
Um,
about everybody in Georgia and in North
Yeah.
Carolina? Hi, everybody. I hope you all are warm and safe. And they had lots of bad snow there. It's crazy.
right.
So,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, at least we're sort of prepared for it. They're not. So okay.
Yeah,
Well, they can
exactly.
complain more this week. They can complain more
they
than me.
can play
That's
more than
fine.
Cranky Phil in Canada for sure. Yeah, it does. I will tell you, it is much harder. We're not going to talk about Florida, but it's going well here. I had my first lessons. Not to rub anything in, but I did have some training going on, and we're looking at horses, and things are starting to get going, and we're organized now, so which is good.
Awesome.
Lot-
You know, I have a really nice. It was a cold weekend, but I had a nice weekend teaching, and it's sort of the first week after the holiday break. And I have to say, all the horses were doing really, really well.
Awesome. So Jen, you have some news for us. What's going on in the world of dressage?
Yeah. What's going on in the world of dressage?
What's going
Dressage.
on in the world of dressage?
Da-da-da.
Headlines hit the news here. We have Dong Seon Kim arrested after bar brawl. There
In
we
Denmark.
go.
That's
Korean
pretty good.
Olympian was
Weird.
arrested for assaulting two
That's a
bar
strange
employees
headline
while
that
under
I've
the
never seen.
influence.
Which is why we brought it on, everybody. I was just like, what? Oh, yeah. Usually dressage, we don't have a lot of arrests to discuss. So, oops.
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
that's
the
not-
TMZ version or whatever,
Yeah, the
right?
TMC version of the Dressage Radio Show. So back on regular Dressage Radio Show, it's the first CDI this week here in Florida. So we'll have some really good news on who's kind of down here and who's getting going. So the jog actually starts tomorrow. And then if anybody's down in Wellington, we've got the America's Got Talent, which is Robert Dover's fundraiser for the USCT. That starts on Wednesday
kicking
nights.
off.
That kicks off this
Yeah, I
week.
saw that.
And the Vincent Ramos Buck Off is Thursday. So lots of kind of fun charity events going on where you can go and have fun if you're down here or you're on your way down to see the CDI. There's lots of stuff going on.
And Reese and I are getting geared up. We're looking at the dates for the Omaha World Cup Finals. Getting excited about that. So
Yes,
that
we're
might be a
doing
good.
a listener meet. We're doing a listener meetup again. That was really fun at the last World Cup. So we're going to do that again.
Awesome. Well, I think we've got a great show. We can get to it right after this commercial break from Fairfield Inn & Suites.
The Horse Radio Network is excited to announce a new partnership with the Fairfield Inn North by Marriott in Lexington, Kentucky for Road to the Horse and Rolex. The Fairfield Inn North is right off Newtown Pike and Route 64 near the Cracker Barrel and only 10 minutes from the horse park the back way, the low traffic way. The Fairfield Inn North has spacious rooms that are being completely renovated now and will be ready in time for Road to the Horse. Plus, the Fairfield Inn North offers complimentary breakfast, a free Wi-Fi throughout the hotel, a huge free parking lot, a business center, indoor swimming pool and jacuzzi, outdoor patio with grill, a laundry facility, and much more. The Cracker Barrel is located right next door, and there are 4 other dining options available for breakfast, lunch, and dinner right around the corner. Just for listeners of Horse Radio Network, we have negotiated some great rates for you for Road to the Horse and Rolex. For Road to the Horse, we have the rate down from $160 to $120. If you're going to Rolex, we have the rate down to $199 from $260. There's a very limited number of rooms available at these rates, so call in your reservations as soon as possible. Search for Fairfield Inn North in Lexington, Kentucky. It's the one on Hackney Place. You must call in your reservation and ask for the Road to the Horse or the Rolex Early Bird Special. So that's the Road to the Horse or Rolex Early Bird Special. Search for Fairfield Inn North by Marriott.
Well, today I am so happy to have a return performer, Megan McIsaac from Lindenhof Equestrian Centrum in Wisconsin. How are you today, Megan?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I always love coming on your radio show.
We love having you. And I'm not going to lie, we have a very appropriate segment for today for you and Phil.
Yeah, Megan is one of the only people we can call who's up north and in a good mood.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody else would be grumpy like me, so we don't call them.
Yeah, that's Grumpy Phil, everyone. Grumpy Phil gets grumpy when it gets cold. And yes, so I like to poke at Grumpy Phil to make Grumpy Phil even more grumpy. So, well, Megan, we were actually all chatting, and it's very appropriate for everybody up north that isn't able to come down to Wellington or to Florida or to any other hot location. But to talk about some issues you have when you train in the winter. In colder climates. So winter riding tips. So get us started.
Winter riding tips. I think first and foremost, layers. Always come prepared with layers, because if you have a groom, you're lucky. If you don't, you're heating up and you're cooling down. And so what I do in the winter, I always ride my horses in the morning. So that way I am hot all morning, and I'm very fortunate. I have a wonderful staff who tacks up the horses and they bring me the horses. And so I get off one and I hop on another. I highly recommend that if you're getting on and off. I used to get sick all the time. So first and foremost, watch your schedule. And then layers, as soon as I get off a horse, I put on a coat. And same thing for my horses. They're body clipped, and as soon as their blankets come off, coolers are on. We walk them to the arena with the coolers to keep their backs warm. When it's 15 or below, I don't ride. I think it's too cold. Sometimes I lunge the horses in the indoor. I'm really lucky right now. I have a heated indoor. However, my barn is not heated. The tack rooms are. So my staff who's tacking up the horses, they're going to be cold. We have a thing called Carhartts. There are heated jackets. But when it's negative 20, it's just so cold.
Oh, my God. I would just die. I wouldn't go outside. Let's just be real. I would be like,
yeah,
no, thanks.
You don't want to. And you would still have to do chores. I highly recommend Florida and a heated arena. My next goal in my barn operation is to heat and have heated floors in my barn. So that's a 5-year plan. So I got to suffer for 5 more years. But that is a goal. But then another thing I highly recommend is electrolytes with your horses. Also thinking about the care of the horses, more hay versus grain, because they stop drinking. And so we have heated water tanks when they go out. And unfortunately, we don't have heated water buckets in the barn, but I like them to be outside as much as possible. So that is what I recommend.
Let's talk a little bit about the drawbacks of clipping your horse. What are some potential issues that you might come across? Because, I mean, I'm a big advocate for clipping the horses so they're not, wet and cold for hours on end. So, what are we thinking about in the winter when we want to clip, and maybe you have a horse and it's your first time working the horse, strongly in the winter. Maybe you've moved up a level and now the horse is working harder and you decide to do a clip. What are some ideas behind that?
I body clip from the pole, and I do all of their neck, their back, their sides, and their haunches. Now, with some horses, I would be very careful if they're very sensitive. I would leave a back patch because I've clipped a horse and I clipped their entire back, and then for a week, even two, that hair is starting to grow in, and they're very irritated and very sensitive. So that feeling of a roach back you're going to get. So that's the clip I do. Some people do a hunter clip. But then once you clip, you have to make sure you have appropriate blankets. Don't clip your horse without a blanket. That's just cruel, in my opinion. I hate being cold. And then we take their protection away from them. So we have two blankets, a neck blanket that covers the entire area that we've clipped. And then we have another, and they're all heavy blankets. One without a neck. You have to be careful, though. There's lots of rubbing going on in the winter with the blankets, with the saddle, and with our legs. In the springtime, when their new hair growth comes in, I found that I can rub their legs or my legs can rub their sides and rub that hair. It's not a spur rub. It's because they're so sensitive. One horse I actually had to leave like a little patch on his side. So we have little creams in the winter. Again, at this point, I recommend going to Florida.
I'm not going to lie, guys. It is a blessing. It is. When you're listening to this, you're like, oh, yeah.
I think that's a good point about the worn hair, because that's one of the potential dangers is that now you have a horse that you want to show that looks like he's got all these marks all over him and his coat doesn't grow back nice and all.
Yeah,
and
you
all
really have to be careful. And I've had horses, if you have an ill-fitting blanket, because with the neck blanket, half their mane will rub off. And so they do sell, I think they're called sleazies, so that covers them. But you just really have to watch all the rubbing in the winter. And we'll even get rubs from the saddle pad. I guess we have very sensitive horses. So, yeah. So that, and just be aware that that's going to happen, and maybe even use a preventative like Vaseline or Polo wraps on your boot. I can't remember what the cream is called. I think it's McIsaac, but it's to promote hair growth. And I put that on, and in 3 days, the hair starts to grow back. So
yeah,
I
think the blanket fit is a huge one. The blankets shouldn't. It's just not part of winter. Your blanket shouldn't be rubbing your horse, and if it is, look at the fit, or look at a product that goes underneath to prevent the rubbing, because I think a lot of times in the past, I know, years ago, that the blankets just wouldn't fit great or whatever, and then you were like, oh well, that's part of winter, and then it's really not, and if your blanket's rubbing your horse's shoulders, he's not going to like wearing a blanket, and you're not going to have a happy horse. So there's a lot of differentiation in blankets now, and you might like the Weatherby the best one, but maybe another style or another size or is going to fit your horse a little bit better. You have to look around at what's out there and how what's going to suit your horse, and not necessarily your favorite blanket to look at.
There's many options.
Yeah, many options.
Yeah.
So guys, I was going to ask you, what do you do training wise? What's your big, in the winter? Do you try to push on and do you make it, what do you do in that department?
In terms of cold weather?
Yeah.
I used to push on, and I don't think it's worth it because my body is tight, and I don't ride well in the winter. And if I'm feeling that way, I know the horses are standing outside and they're tight. So a good option for me is either having a lunging day or a free jumping day. When it doesn't rain, we love to go out in the snow, and that's a lot of fun, but you got to bundle up. You have to have quarter sheets on. I found as I get older, I think quality over quantity, and I don't do well in the cold weather. So I tend to give them days off.
Phil, how about you?
No.
He's
me.
Canadian. Yeah, he's Canadian.
We're pushing on. We're training. I want everybody to be very comfortable at the level they're showing at. So it's sort of like, well, what do you want to do next summer? Like, are we going to move up a level, or are we going to happy where we're at? And if we're going to move up a level, we got to get training. So there's always situations and times, and I know going into the winter there's going to be days off. There just has to be, days that's too cold or you can't get to the barn or whatever. So every day that I have an opportunity to train the horse, I do it, and I do it seriously, because the summer can be way more fun if you get to the first show and you're prepared, and that's my goal. Yep. And like I said, I know there may be even weeks that we're just not riding. So, I'm trying not to. After the Christmas break we've had, the horses have had a time off, had a nice fall, all that kind of stuff, and sort of January 1st, it's training because we have to. Ready to go.
So Phil, when is it too cold for you to not ride? Does it ever?
I don't know. We talking Celsius, degrees Celsius like the rest of the world.
Yes, I know. What degree Celsius?
After it gets below -10, then the horses are going to have a light ride.
I'm going to Google that real quick, everyone.
That's about it. Yeah. You want to convert that for me?
I'm working on it.
That's pretty cold. I'm going to tell you that right away.
Yeah.
I think that's a little colder than Megan's cutoff point, but try not to have a lot of days off.
Yeah, we don't usually have like a week off. It's like a day here or there. That it gets really cold, and then we're back to work.
That's right around 15. It's 14 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's right.
Oh, so it's
right
the
in
same.
that. Okay, we can agree that
pretty much the same. So
we're the same. Yeah, if it's
good.
Some days, though, I work at 10. It depends, because we also have horse shows in the winter. We have indoor shows in Illinois, and one in January and one in March that I do like to go to with the clients. That way they don't have 8 months off, and they still stay in the show ring, and it helps them for nerves. And usually they are ready, so
it
works
perfect.
out.
Wow.
That's perfect. Yeah, we don't have too many shows going on, so we're just working.
Yeah. You guys are the bomb, let me tell you. It gets close to 25, and I'm peacing out. Well, Megan, as always, thank you so much for coming on and giving us some tips. How would our listeners find you online?
Lindenhof.com, and it's with 2 I's, LINDINHOS.com. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, that was a fun interview from Megan, and I hope that helps everybody as you guys are riding in the winter. I can't do it, so good on you for sure. But we're coming back right after this commercial break.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Managing horses can be challenging. Each horse's personality affects the way he behaves and reacts to the world around him. Horses with certain dispositions can be at higher risk for developing health problems than others. High-strung or excitable horses are easily stressed, but so is the timid, quiet warrior. Stressed horses are more likely to develop digestive upsets that lead to colic, diarrhea, and ulcers. Nalox Advanced was specifically developed to support a digestive tract that is under stress. It sustains proper pH levels, reducing the incidence of ulcers and hindgut imbalances, while simultaneously supporting the healing of damaged tissues. Nalox Advanced supports the complete digestion of starches and sugars and sustains populations of beneficial bacteria. Make life a little easier on your sensitive horse and start him on Nalox Advanced today. To learn more about the ingredients in Nalox Advanced, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
For the Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, we got Megan McIsaac to stick around to talk about her grand adventure in Denmark.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at totalsaddlefit.com.
Well, I'm so happy that Megan stuck around for the Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. Megan, welcome back to the show today.
Thank you.
Well, I love it. So we actually, one of the things that Megan and I have been friends, goodness now, since we were young riders. I know we don't talk about it. A long time. And I just adore her. And we started with Young Riders, and she has started a successful business and runs. But one of the things that I admire you the most is now you go to Denmark and look for horses. Yep. Can you kind of tell everybody, like, how did you get started? Like, how did you do that?
Well, I love selling horses, and I had gone, I think it was it was 2003. I had gone to Holland and had imported horses then, and I wanted to restart my sales business. And so I had spoke with my mentor, Jane Ayers, and was talking about going to Germany and Holland. And at that time, it was 2014, and we were going to nationals. And by a fluke, I had brought my Sarah plate, and Jana Rumble from Florida, who was originally from Denmark, was on it. And we had a chance meeting. Jane had introduced us, and she said, "Why don't you go to Denmark?" And I said, "Well, that would be great. Could you introduce me to some people?" And they are very open with their records, not only show records, but also health records and x-rays. And so I said, why not? I'm going to go out and do this. And so I Googled a bunch of farms, and I contacted a bunch of people, and it was all done by the internet. And I said, here I go. And it took me about a month and a half to plan. And I also went on the Google Maps, and I went from farm to farm, so I had the driving distance. And know that I don't understand Danish. I only speak English and a little bit of German. And I was looking at the spelling, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of fun. I hope they have a GPS. Because I didn't have an agent. And I do love adventure, and I love meeting new people. And so I planned, it was a whole week, and I brought my vet with me, which I think is really, really important if someone's ever going to go to Europe, because we have different standards. And so off we went, and it was my vet and I, and we actually only got lost once. And we went, I don't know how many farms, maybe 25, and we went from one to the other. And I had I found a website for B&Bs, and I don't recommend the hotels.
Really?
And that's what we did. Yeah. And it was amazing. And
what's the matter
on that
with the hotels? I'm curious.
Yeah,
what?
What's wrong with the hotel?
Well, actually the B&Bs offer more. The food is better. The people are more friendly, and they're less expensive. And I mean by hundreds of dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
It worked really well for me to go to B&Bs. And I also got to meet my vet on a totally different level. So make sure if you're going on a trip with someone, you like them. Because it was just the two of us. I rented a car, the GPS was in it, and I'm still friends with all of the people that I met on that trip. And then the next trip I met new people, and it's just growing. So now I have people that just email me and say, Megan, I have a horse for sale. When are you coming to Denmark? Come and try my horse. And they have such a small network, and they talk a lot. I love it. There's more horses than people there. The people are very honest, that I have met. You know, not everyone's honest, but everyone I have met, they tell me, like, when there was a scratch on a horse. They tell me if it ever had a surgery or it coughed. You know, it's really refreshing. When I've gone to other countries, they don't disclose as much. So I really recommend Denmark if anyone ever wants to go to Denmark to shop for horses.
Well, I'm gonna recommend Megan because she already went to Denmark, and you're bringing horses back, good horses, good trained horses over here. So I don't need to go to Denmark now, right?
Yeah, we
Well,
just need
thank
to go.
you. Thank you.
Megan,
I
do you go
appreciate
with
that.
Yeah, do you go with a list, or do you go like how do you do that? Do you go with what you're looking for, or?
Well, specifically, I'm looking for a horse that's trained third level to Grand Prix, and I typically prefer them older, 8 or 9 to 15. I bought a 16-year-old, but that's a little bit old. He was a Grand Prix horse. They all have to be geldings, and I'm looking for the adult amateur horse. I am not looking for young, talented horses. They are there. They're out there. But I really think we have a need for our grassroots, our adult amateurs. And I believe by bringing these horses with good temperaments, that's first and foremost. And second is the training, that people can come, try them. My goal is to have 7 horses for sale at a time. Right now, I'm only at 5. And that way, it also makes the Midwest a nice location to come to. I always hear about the East and West Coast, and so those are my personal goals for trainers, that they can call me and say, I have this adult amateur. She's at third level, and I'd really like her to move up to Prix St. George, or I have a really timid rider. I'd really, I'm looking for a really special horse for her. I would like to provide that to the U.S. So that is my goal, and that's what I'm looking for. In terms of, do I have a list? I actually bought 3 horses for clients, and they bought sight unseen. And that was really scary and nerve-wracking for me, because you're talking about a lot of money and beautiful horses and clients that I've worked with for years, and I want these partnerships to work. And luckily they did, and they're doing really well, and they've stayed in the barn, and I've watched these people grow. They're making their dreams happen thanks to these horses. But it was really scary. I don't know if I want to do that again, all that pressure, but I really enjoy getting to know the new horses, and I'm able to disclose information to people on, what is it like, because it's a traumatic experience for these horses. A lot of times I buy right from the breeder, and so this is their first huge trip, and, everything has changed. The air, the feed, the way they're handled, the tack. I sometimes try to get the tack with the horses. So I really see, is this an adult amateur horse, or do they need 3 or 6 months to adjust? And then is this the horse I really bought? So it's a huge undertaking. It's a big risk. But then people who've never traveled to Europe can come to me, and then they can see the horse here and not have to deal with the transportation and having the horse get acclimated to America. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Megan, like I said, it's so impressive to me. You're so brave, but you really have figured out a way to make it work and to bring horses to America. And I think that that's such a fantastic job. So how would our listeners find you online if they're interested?
Lindenhof.com. It's LINDINHOF.com. Come and check me out, and I would love to sell anyone a horse.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you for having me.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the shoulder relief girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, Phil, it was fun. We got to do the show a little bit earlier this week because it's getting a little busy here on Thursday. But we really wanted to, we want one more shout out for emails and Facebook. We love it when you guys send us questions and comments and things you want us to talk about. So send it to us either by email. And my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com, or Philip is philip@horseradionetwork.com, or on the Facebook page. We love hearing about you guys, and now that we're getting back in the swing of things for 2017, we want to hear from you. So we would love that. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me best probably on Facebook, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.